Yeah, good morning, Catherine. How are you?
Morning. I'm fine, thank you. I saw you trying to call me, but I had already started the webinar, so it's nice. So you can
Yeah,
say
it
good
is all right.
morning to us.
Let's,
Yeah.
yeah. Good morning, everyone. Let us continue and let us participate in this webinar for purposes of continuity. The webinar will be recorded for your future reference. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dan. And we had already appreciated CHRP for running this webinar, so we're always grateful. Thank you, Dan. So we were at competency, and we were trying to define what's a competence.
Catherine, this is Kemunto. I just want to contribute. To me, competence
Yes.
is being confident in one's area or trade, or more, and having some expertise in what you do. So I would say confidence and knowledge, which is expertise. So you're the like the master in your field, in that specific area.
Okay, and how does it come about? How do you become an expert in that field? What are some of the things that you need to do?
Say being continuous training or development, you keep developing that skill and trade, and also being, I think confidence also matters a lot, because if you're not confident in what you're doing, then you can't trust yourself in getting to know it better or improving yourself, and continuous repetition of it, of the whatever it is you're doing. Yeah, if it's recruitment, that's why we say probably sometimes they're generalists, and we also have specialists in specific areas.
Yeah. So we have generalists, and we also have specialists in various areas. I see adverts saying we want a learning and development manager or officer. We want a compensation and benefits specialist. So I agree with you, Kemto, in what you're saying, that we can become generalists and gravitate into becoming specialists. And that's what we see also, is that when you start off in HR, and I'll reference a lot of HR because maybe I'm assuming that majority of us are, but in terms of being very, very astute in terms of you become a generalist, then after that, some people really gravitate into becoming specialists. So it's even just like doctors. You become a generalist, a physician, then after that, you gravitate into becoming maybe a cardiologist or a pediatrician, oncologist, in terms of the trade that you want. Okay. Someone else, thank you. You said keywords, skills, experience. Someone else? Maybe laboring the point. Okay. What did I do? What did I said I pressed something which was not correct. So it won't stop recording on my side. Okay. So let's define competence. Like we all agree. So it's a combination of skills, job attitude, and knowledge, which is reflective in job behavior that can be observed, maybe looking, measured, and evaluated. Competency is a determining factor for successful performance. It goes on to say the focus on competency is behavior, which is an application of skills, job attitude, and knowledge. I'll stop there for us to be able to unpack this definition, because it is what we will see. We will build on the approaches. We will build on the models. All those things that we have said that we are going to discuss this morning is what we are going to build on. No. Combination of skills, job attitude, and knowledge. So what are skills? You must have these skills for you to be able to do this job. when you draft those job advertisements, I see skills, must have good negotiation skills, good communication skills. See all sorts of skills being put in job adverts for the job advert to be complete, or for the job description to be complete. What are skills overall, and how do we develop skills? Job attitude and knowledge. Maureen, you'd like to try?
Yes, I would like to try. So I think skills it's technical expertise. Really, that's what first comes to mind.
Mhm.
Technical expertise in a specific area
Mhm.
that you acquire over time. Yeah.
So skills, okay, skills, yeah, you acquire over a period of time, you learn the principles. So skills, like let's say, what are the type of skills that are required by a HR practitioner?
Conflict resolution,
That's a good one.
relationship management. So there's the behaviors, but there's also the technical areas around HR in terms of recruitment, talent acquisition, talent management. So it's the technical, but also the behavioral attributes.
Very well put, yeah. So there is the technical competencies that we need to develop, and there are also the behavioral competencies that we also must develop. Sometimes there are people who are just naturally those behavioral competencies, they are no-brainer. Maybe they are good communicators, or maybe they demonstrate strong leadership capabilities. There are people who are just good negotiators. But if a job demands that these behavioral or attitudes that are required for a job for you to be successful, there are things that we can learn. And that is where we come to talk about job attitude, so that if you're not open to learning, you will not be completely capable of showing yourself and showcasing your ability to do the job in a way that significantly impacts the business. You understand what I mean? So job attitude. What do you see in job attitude? It's a very key ingredient, because people say, well, they have an attitude, and most of the time we know that it means that they've got a negative attitude, but we also need to reference and say exactly what it means. Job attitude. Anyone who'd like to try job attitude? I've already said about it a little bit more. Just maybe to give an example. The one thing that I keep talking about job attitude is our ability to be felt, and the presence that we bring to that job. And as young graduates, I keep talking to our job graduates and say, why did you choose this career? Why didn't you choose that other career? And of course, they say many things, it's easy for me. It's the course that I was called for. It's the one that my parents want me to pursue. It's the one that I was told that I'll get a job easily, stuff like that. Everything that we all know when we talk about why we took a certain career over the other. And of course, we've also seen people changing careers midway, either they've even in their third year, they're doing medicine and they go and do arts, or they're doing arts and they go and do a completely different thing. It's amazing because you're allowed to change. The only thing that is constant is change. And that's why what we love about change so much is that it gives you opportunities to be able to explore. So your ability to understand why you pick a certain job and choose a certain career talks a lot about how you're going to show up and the attitude that you're going to have towards that job as you execute it. And I want you to, on Monday, when you go back to work or to your businesses, just to observe people. Look at people in accounts who chose to be accountant or financial experts or whatever it is. Look at how they relate with their job, this job that they're supposed to be doing. How passionate, what kind of attitude do they put in? And these things are very observable. You cannot be able to it's not tangible, but it's things, how they do it, how they execute it, how they demand of it and stuff like that. That's the attitude that we have. And it emanates from how I choose it, how I position it, how I value it, how proud am I in it. So that attitude always follows you. I love my job. I don't like my job. And you need now to define why you don't like your job. And most of the time, it's not that you don't like the job that you are doing, it's the environment that creates you not to like that job. Are we together? Those ones of the environment maybe is not supportive, the supervisor is not supportive, maybe the tools that you have been given are not adequate for you to be able to do so. There are many things. Then that's when people say, I do not like that job. But from the very beginning, when you look at people who say, I like my HR job, I'm a HR practitioner, they say it with a lot of pride, but the environment that they have been accorded, if they don't have that oomph and they are not bringing themselves with full presence of the job attitude, we can talk about the environment and the culture that has been created that it's not is not conducive enough for them to be where they want to be. Someone else would like to make a rejoinder or just talk about job attitude and how they see it. Anyone? When you think about job attitude. Okay. And the knowledge, what is knowledge? There is tacit knowledge, explicit knowledge, institutional knowledge. Hear about people talking about, they've got institutional knowledge. If we let them leave, it's not going to be good for us. What does that mean? What's knowledge? Anyone would like to try? Like us to be more engaging? Anyone? Here. Okay. So the knowledge that you go to school, you acquire knowledge over time, the real knowledge of how is recruitment done. They're the principles of recruitment. How do I do a job evaluation? They are the real knowledge, the knowledge that you acquire through learning, observation, attending training, and knowledge can never be taken away from you. So that's the knowledge that you bring to this job. And the more you do it, the more knowledgeable you get. And that's why institutions now have come to understand and to see the importance of documenting their milestones, because you don't want people to leave and you had not documented the knowledge of this organization. People have the knowledge, but also organizations' knowledge is very important. Where is our history? Where did we start? What are the milestones? What have been the challenges and stuff like that? So through that knowledge, institutional knowledge, we're able to make programs or design products and services that will keep us ahead of competition. So the knowledge that people bring, working through the organization, they acquire more knowledge of how the business is run, and the business now, as an institution, owns that knowledge. And that knowledge is something that people sometimes fail to document, and it becomes very difficult for us to remember what happened 100 years from now. And it's important for us to be able to do that. Thanks God for AI and technology, we're able to capture that a little bit more. So all these, the skills, the job attitude, and the knowledge, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I cannot hear you. We lost you for a moment.
You're not clear.
Yeah, I know. If you lose me, just keep talking, all of you. Just keep going. I am very sorry. Power again went off. It's
No
one of the
problem.
days I prayed and I told God, please. So if I appoint you, Lillian, if power goes off, you just continue driving the class so that we don't have a gap in our recording. Sawa sawa. Hii ni harambee tafadhali. That's okay. Okay, that's okay. So where was I? Can you see my screen? Can see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
So that's what, let me put off my video just to give me better bandwidth, okay? So that's why we keep on saying that it reflects in the job behavior that is observed, measured, and evaluated. And we'll talk about the ability to measure and evaluate competencies within the combination of the skills, attitude, and knowledge. And we go on to say that it determines, the successful performance of a job. The focus on competency is behavior, which is an application of skills, job, attitude, and knowledge. Competency is more behavioral, very, very observable, and it is as a recognition that we need to observe people in the way they do things for us to be able to see whether they are doing the thing that is required. Any question from there? Any question? So we go on, okay? So from a HR perspective, we know that there are many functions of HR. Which are the core functions of HR? You've already seen them. Perhaps I should not have put up my screen. What are some of the core functions of HR? You all know them. We can belt them out like there's no tomorrow. What do you do every day?
Talent attraction and acquisition.
Talent management.
There's appraisal, recruitment. There's staff welfare. Okay, there's record keeping, attendance monitoring. Yeah.
Good. What other functions are there in HR? Are there others that we have forgotten to mention from the ones which have been mentioned? Appraisal. I like when people say appraisal, then I say, well, it's the overall performance management. Yeah, thank you. Okay, great. There are many. Learning should have been first because we are here learning. Okay, and many more. So the competency framework, and you already know, when you think about why am I in the HR department and how does our competency people strategy look like? You know, there are many pillars, and most of the pillars I see nowadays in the balance, in the strategies for organizations, they normally have the 4 pillars of the balance scorecard. Then after that, they start now putting very bespoke things around the needs of the business. So HR management framework based on competency has to follow the core functions of HR, which we have all alluded to. We are very much involved in recruitment and selection. We want to make sure that we have very agile training and development programs. We want to ensure that there's performance management kicking in the organization. We want to make sure that we are rewarding people adequately and fairly and on merit and also transparently. So we have a reward management, and then there's the career management, encompassing everything. And there could be other things around employee relations. We are meant to ensure that within this, we are keeping the records of the employee, because the employee is the one who is in the center of it all. Because without employees, then why would organizations exist? They are the people who the business for us to be able to do that. So with this, with core functions of HR, now we are able to unveil the competency framework for the organization, so that maybe I can move to a better position. You can hear me well. So there's the business strategy, and the business strategy demands that you are looking at the people strategy, and the people strategy will be informed by the core functions of HR, and then you get business results. Isn't it? When you recruit well, you're able to get results. If you train well, you're able to get results. If you have good KPIs set out for the employees, you're able to get clear results, how you're going to reward, and then and how you're going to progress people with their career. So this is the competency HR framework that you need to adopt. And of course, if you're in your organization and you have other people strategies within within your company, then you can have them and drive them within your competency framework. And we will look at some of the competencies as we go along, so that it's very practical and very result oriented for us. The competency framework will be basis for all HR functions and serve as the linkage between the individual performance and the business performance. In organizations, I'm sure we have a HR manual, isn't it? And that HR manual has policies and procedures on how we recruit, isn't it? Anybody here who doesn't have a HR manual or it's struggling to develop one? And there are many policies that come into place all the time. We keep adding them until that book now has become very, I see them in pages and pages of 200, 300. What do those things communicate? Why is it important for us to have policies and procedures at our place of work? And do people read those 400 pages and 200 pages manuals? Is it important?
Well, about the 200 and 300 pages, we have had something similar in my place of work. But what we normally do is you just have a look at what you specialize in, what deals in your or whatever you use in your department, and then probably you can just have awareness about the rest of the policies. But then we have them in place so that they give us guidelines. They guide us on how to do run things in the organization.
Very true. I like that. It's important for us to have them so that we have guidelines and a standard way of doing things in the organization. What I hear you say is you have an abridged versions of maybe an employee handbook, and you focus on that when maybe you're inducting employees,
Yes.
so that they don't think, oh, 200 pages, what do I get from now? Already, okay, someone else? 200 pages, how do you make it palatable? Someone else?
Catherine?
Yes.
My name is Jacinta. In my place, what you have done, our HR manual is very thin. But now what we have come up with is just the policies for each department or each part. Like if it is IT, there's IT separate, then there's like dress code separate, so that you don't just make one voluminous book which no one will read through. So we've just come up with the smaller pieces so that people can pass through and they can understand, instead of just one big one which no one reads. Exactly. That is what we've done.
Fantastic. An innovative way of creating demand for your policies, standalone, making very clear, so that people don't just think that, wow, 400 pages. Someone else that we can borrow? What have you done? What are you doing? Yes, what have you done? What are you doing? What I find many employees do is that when they are faced with a dilemma, or is when they run for that manual and say, they ask, which page is it? Which page is it? Especially during disciplinary process, is when a HR manual has never gathered more demand than when an employee is facing a certain disciplinary issue. That's the only time that they run to it. Or maybe when they want to separate and they go to the leave policy or the exit policy, and they have a look at it. The other time is that it's actually a non-starter. but for HR, of course, it's an important document. It's the same way. Don't feel bad when your HR manual is not read every day. It's not meant to be read every day, because if you have discussions, if you have outlined your culture well, if your values are lived, if you have an elaborate performance management system in your organization, your manual is being lived and worked throughout, because people will actually understand what needs to be done. It's just like the way I'm sure you don't read the finance manual. When's the last time you read the finance manual? The last time you read the finance manual is maybe when you wanted to see, you're going on a trip, and when am I supposed to get the interest? When am I supposed to surrender the money, the flow that I have been given? If I'm in charge of petty cash, what am I supposed to do? So it's the same. And it's not a bad thing, because once you understand how an organization runs, it's almost second nature that we do understand. So the policies are there to guide, it's important, but let's not also forget, one of the things is that we move on so fast in these businesses, we forget to look at the strategy, we forget to look at the policies, and we forget to ask people, how should we be updating this? And only when we are caught with something that really needs to be addressed, we go back to the policies and say, but we've been doing things differently, but it says something, it's something different. And now, because we've been doing things differently, which is okay, and it runs so well, and it's for the benefit of the business, when someone wants to take you to task, they say, let's see what has been written. There's nothing you can do to me. It's not written, it's not documented. That's why I keep on saying it's important for us not to forget all those things, because things are working and we forget that updating. Sometimes we only update them when there's a crisis. When there's no crisis, when things are happening well, look at them from time to time for us to make sure that we are keeping abreast. And also maybe making them a bit more creative around putting them on SharePoint, reminding people from time to time. You can have a good way of building people's competency through when they power up their laptops, they can be reminded, our recruitment policy is elaborate. If you're looking for how to move from one department to another, refer to clause 4. We have advertised this job, and for you to get more information, look at whatever. So looking at very creative ways for people to interact with their people strategy, because that is how you become more competent. And the more you become more competent, everybody in the organization follows that competency, and the whole organization becomes more competent. Remember the knowledge that we have spoken about, that we want to be a knowledgeable organization. Knowledge comes from people, and it's now derived through, it's now taken down to the organization. So we continue becoming a learning organization. Are we together? So that is important. That's why I needed just to put a little bit of emphasis around the policies that we have in the organizations. Very, very important, because they help build the competencies, the knowledge, and the attitude, the job attitude that people have in the organization. So when we look at the definition of competency, the skills that we bring, the job attitude that people oppose in the workplace, and the knowledge, it's very observable behavior, and it leads to job performance. So how do you observe and say, hey, Catherine does a good job? Or sometimes, how do you observe and say, how do you know? Because your eyes are different from mine. Are they not? Are they not? Eyes different? What you see, or we all supposed to see? If it's blue, it's blue. Me, I could be seeing light blue, and you could be seeing dark blue. Observable behavior. This is where the rubber starts meeting the road, and people start thinking, observation is very different. Observable behavior. How can we unpack it? Because from this, we are not able to move forward, because How you observe and how observe is very different. How observe the doctor strike compared to how you observe it is very different. Someone who would like to talk about observable behavior and how we go about it? How do you see and how do we come to a common understanding that this is okay, then let's move on with it? Anyone would like to try? Please, let's participate. Joseph Nganga, you'd like to try observable behavior? What that means? Or anyone else?
Can you hear me, Molin?
Yes, can hear.
I think for us, how we do it is that we try to embed the company values into our daily work. And so when we go to the performance management, the systems that we have is that we ensure that we have the technical side of the KPIs and also the behavioral part, which brings in now the company values. And that is what we use to evaluate and see how maybe an employee is behaving when they are conducting their work.
Very true. Yeah. Observable behavior strongly embedded in your company values and to see whether they are actually living them. Okay. Someone else? Someone else would like to share how you observe that?
Maybe I can try.
Yeah.
Okay. With regards to observable behavior, it could also be through a culture change that you're trying to drive in the organization. For example, performance management. Are discussions being held, periodic discussions, and is there an impact? Is there a change with regards to an individual or a team or a departmental, the output that they're giving in the organization, and it can be felt? Just like you said earlier on, there's that comment of, are we being felt? Are we seeing the impact of HR in the organization? So those are things that you can observe. You can see a change. You can tell we were at X and we have improved or we have declined. There is more people coming, probably people are not taking leave or there was a wellness issue and now more people are taking leave. There's less absenteeism. So those kind of things that can actually be seen and you can actually see that there's a change from what it was to the current situation that is now. Sometimes it's positive. We always drive for positive change, but you can also find that the change has retracted and become negative. So you need to do something to improve it and to get it better.
Very true. The first one is what the first one from the colleague who said, we leave it observable behavior through our values and the culture that we have created as an organization. These are the one also very important. If we have a project or something that we would like to change in the organization, we have observed that we have a gap or we have a slide in something, then we make deliberate effort to bring it to the fore and we start having those discussions. So very observable. If people used to come to work late and we have flagged it out and come and say, we need to improve on our timekeeping, so we can observe that people have started coming to whatever. If we felt that there's low morale in the organization, there's no motivation, what has led to that? Now we start putting measures in place for us to get back to the level of engagement that is required. And of course, this kind of initiatives are derived from either observing, the quality of work is so sloppy in this organization, the kind of energy that people bring to the organization, you can feel it. You can also do surveys, for you to be able to collect data, for you to see what needs to be improved or what needs to be supported, you know. So that observable behavior, I like going to organizations. And every time someone comes and says, Catherine, if I've been invited, I'm pitching for work or something like that, I like going like 5 minutes early, you know, and just sit at the reception. And I always hope that this reception, I'm able to observe people passing there. Maybe they could be good traffic, people going from one office to the other, or people conversing, or if it's an open space, you can be able to observe how people, and you can almost pick the kind of culture that is in that organization. And I'm sure you can all attest to that. The kind of, because culture is all about warmth, you know, leadership is all very observable through what it is. And you can start seeing the patterns even of how it is. Sometimes you can be, without judging and saying, oh, maybe it's just a bad day, but you wonder, it's a bad day for the whole organization, everybody, you know. So things like that. So it's important for us to be very observable, very keen, and not judge until we get to the bottom of it, that we're able to observe if you're a first timer. But if you work there, then you're also able to know the kind of culture that is there, and you're able to say good culture, negative culture that we need to change and stuff like that. Any other way of observable behavior? Any other one that you'd like to share and to support? Observable behavior. Okay. So observable behavior around the doctor strike. If I do a poll right now, should they go back to work? Should they not go back to work? Should they? Do they have the right to strike, or do they not have the right to strike? Or it's too complicated, from the national government, the county government, to CBAs which have not been recognized, to CBAs which have not been, things have not been done from many years ago. Someone who'd like to weigh in? If you are the HR of the Ministry of Health, what would you be telling the CS? I would hate to be the HR right now in the Ministry of Health. It's a difficult place to be.
Yeah, it is a bit complicated there.
Mm.
Yeah, because there was a CBA which has not been honored.
Mm.
So at one hand, these people, you know, they are going on strike is, at least you can feel them. But then on the side of the government, they may not have money to pay them. So I believe communication, I wish they could just come to a table and agree. And also whatever they agree, they honor it even in the future. But when there are CBAs which are not honored, then it becomes a problem. So maybe both sides need to sit at a table and agree on the way forward.
Agree. Communication, open communication. Someone else?
Yes.
Observable behavior around this strike. Your take, what can you learn from it? If you are the HR, what would you be advising the CS or advising the doctors? I think there are too many moving parts, like what you have said. I think the basis of all this is the broken trust that needs to be mended for people to come to the table and have that discussion. Observable behavior of, I trusted you, we went to the table, we put in a CBA, you strongly believe that I have the skills, the job attitude, and the knowledge, And then after that, we came into an agreement where now you have not honored it. And I feel aggrieved in terms of you not being able to honor it. So I have some fallback mechanism is that I'll down my tools. I will not give you my services.
Yes, services,
While on the other side is that the government needs to know that it has an obligation, budget appropriately, and I'm not saying that we have enough money to do all these things, but the same thing that we have said in an organization, when we do an engagement survey, sometimes look at the quick wins and try and do it. So by the time you see that I'm not doing it, at least there are some things that I'm doing. Now you have not done any of the things. So that trust is already broken. And all the things we have said you have not done. And then you also now, you are the big brother because then you are the one who owns it. On top of that, you are lumping me on that, showing me your muscles. So it's a very difficult situation to be in. Until we restore that trust, then it's a bit far-fetched in terms of ever trusting, in terms of that the government will honor its commitments and what it is. On the other hand, the doctors have also an oath that they take to protect and to preserve patients' lives. So when you look at it from a moral perspective, for me, I believe they should go back to work. If for all intents and purposes is for that oath that you have taken for office for saving life, then go back and save life. You get what I mean? Because it's very dire now. Hospitals have been closed and stuff like that, And on the other side, there's the hard negotiation of saying you've not paid much of the bargain. What do we do about it? Very delicate, like what we said, very complicated. Where it ends, I guess, it can only end by us praying. All of us, whatever faith we profess, we pray and hope that the stalemate is going to be met. But I believe that if you do a little, even if you do a third of what the CBA has said, I think there will be some mellowing from the striking doctors and maybe go back to back. But if you take a hard stand, then whatever. So very observable, even when you look at them talking, you can see that they are not happy, they are angry. And these other parties saying, I have done something, but they come and say whatever. So I give you my competency. So that observable behavior must be reflective of everything that we are talking about. Our values, our culture, what we have agreed to do, so that it can now accumulate to having job performance. Because that's all we want. We want top performance. We want you to be able to deliver on what you have said. Job performance. When you come and say, with all this, then we can come and say, indeed, they do a good job. We're able to evaluate the kind of job that they do, and they're able to say that they are doing a good job because they've been able to finish, they've been able to provide this, they've been able to do this, they've passed on work to the next person. We're able to evaluate and we're able to measure it in terms of the pay that we'll give you, in terms of the benefits, in terms of the career progression that you're going to get into, and it now comes full circle. That's what we talk about competency. Of course, I digressed around the observable behavior of the doctor strike, but it's an observation that you have to make when things are not going right. So it's for us to go back to the workplace and say, when I look at all this, what does it translate to? It translates to good performance in the end. And we'll talk about good performance as we move on. Any rejoiner? Any question around there? Okay, so when we look at the competencies, which we have said is about the observable behaviors and the skills that are required, the job description looks at the what, where the competency models focuses on the how. All of us here, if we are working, we have a job description. And how does that job description look like? You know, it maybe has the key responsibilities that you're supposed to perform. It has the skills that we have talked about, the skills. It has it has the attributes that you're supposed to bring. It also has the qualifications, either academic or professional, and stuff like that. And of course, it has that famous line that I like to talk about: any other duty that may be that may be given to you. I don't know why it's still there, but anyway, it's now more referenced around the area of your responsibility. So the job description looks at the what, whereas the competency model focuses on the how. And the how is because it is an individual who is doing it. Focuses. For me to remain motivated, I need to look at the how. And that how ends at something for me to be able to know that I have contributed well to the development of this organization. Traditional job description looks at elements of the jobs and define the job in sequential of tasks necessary to perform the job. Competency studies that people who do the job well and define the job in terms of the characteristics and behaviors of these people. You know, so a job description is, well, anybody who comes in as a HR manager, this is a job description. But now we want to look at if it is Mary coming to hold this job. We must make Mary successful because we have believed that she has the skill, the attitude, and the knowledge, and we'll be able to observe her in that job. Are we together? It is important for us to make sure that when people hold jobs, we create it for them based on what they're able to deliver and to tailor-make the job to make it as interesting and as challenging and as rewarding as possible for the person. I cannot overemphasize that we need to make people successful in the jobs that they hold. You'll hear me. In fact, utasikia huyo Catherine anasemanga people need to be successful in the jobs that they hold. Because I strongly believe you have earned your way through, you are capable of delivering, and let's help you deliver through all those other things that we shall look at, giving you the correct salary, the benefits, making sure that we are having feedback sessions, making sure that we are giving you KPIs, and you're also very alive to the fact that you have a job description that is clear. Most of the time is when people really, sometimes the job description has changed so much and they start feeling frustrated around the job. And when they look at it, they say, but I'm doing job that I'm not supposed to be doing. Whereas they are not going back and saying, let's look at my job again and let's put it down. And then the manager will say, but it's any other duty. And that is when we now start having that broken relationship as we go along. So I hope in your organizations you have clearly articulated the job descriptions, and if they're changing, you are quick enough and you're brave enough to come and say the jobs are changing, let's change them. We are afraid of changing job descriptions because we think that people will ask for more money, isn't it? But if the jobs have changed, and the jobs have changed to be aligned with the strategy of the organization and the business decisions that we are making to keep ahead of, to align ourselves with technology, we should be able to do that. Let's talk about job descriptions. How are job descriptions at your place of work? Do they really talk to the people who are holding those jobs? Or the last time they were reviewed was when the organization started and they're still serving? Or we only review the job descriptions again when someone leaves and now we need to advertise the job, we get an opportunity to reward or to rewrite it, which is a good opportunity. I think it's also a very good opportunity. Job descriptions, how do we do it at our places of work? Are they speaking to what needs to be done? Are we also bringing in the characters and the behaviors to the person who's holding it? It's just mechanical. It's work as usual. Tutajulia uko mbele. Someone would like to give some whatever? Job descriptions? Because they're important in this competency journey. Like to share?
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Yes, thank you.
I think last year we looked at the babies that we had in place, and clearly there were not the people holding the roles because they were full of responsibilities. Like, you know, you look at one and it has like a hard edge, you know, responsibilities, but actually not well defined. So we're going through a job evaluation process and we had to redefine all of them for the entire like 60 positions. So yeah, they have the responsibility, I mean the roles, and also they show maybe how much time one is using. Unfortunately, I'm not near my computer, I would have shared that, but if anyone would love to see that, maybe they can at the end I will share with them.
Well done.
Just
Yeah, your connection is not too good, but what I hear is first, well done for doing the job evaluation. It gave you an opportunity to redefine the job analysis, you know, come up with clear job description, and they were full, what you have said, they were full of just responsibilities without really looking at those competencies that really speak into the job, so that when someone comes to own the job, they can do a much better job. Remember that what we want to have in the bottom line is clear job performance that can be measured. Okay, so let's try and look at those job descriptions from time to time to make sure that they are correctly worded and they are really looking at the characteristics and behaviors of the people who hold them. Okay, so there are many types of competencies at the place of work, and we'll want to look at the ones that are articulated by HR practitioners, you know, and every time the people agenda comes into place, is that sometimes it's brought at the very bottom of the agenda. The heavy things around how much money are we making, what are the profits for this quarter. Now, many companies, if your financial year ends in December, have just completed quarter one, we are reviewing quarter one, getting ready for quarter two. So that's a heavy agenda right now. Are we on track? But the people agenda is not put at the top. And that is the mistake that every organization makes. The people agenda should be the first one. Do we have enough manpower? Do we have enough people with the having the right competency for them to be able to do the job? If we are not having that discussion, then why are we talking about numbers? You know, we assume, and I understand where we are coming from. I'm not saying that the agendas are not right. But if we are not saying that, do we still, because we always assume, we've got enough people, people are doing the right thing. It's good to acknowledge that it's people who are driving the business in terms of the strategy and the objectives. So it's good as a leader to come and say, how are the people doing? How was quarter one? How many people did we lose? How many people came in? What kind of products and understanding what kind of products and services are we pushing? And do our people really understand? And how much training has been earmarked for those people? How much did we use on training? And what is the return on investment? If the manager has that clear, then they can demand for results. But you cannot demand for results, and take this to the bank. You cannot demand for results as the executive team if you have not looked at the people agenda and come and say, we've given everything, we've had the people, but there are no results. and you put it at the end and say, oh, okay, things like that. So that's something that I'd like to challenge every HR. If you have an opportunity to sit at the decision-making table, let's first analyze and say, we have people, this is the people agenda, these are the people statistics, this is what we've been able to do. Now let's compare that to the results that have been brought to the table for us to be able now to have that discussion. So types of competencies, and we did allude to that, is the managerial competency and it's the soft competency. Because I'm an avid reader, there are these articles, you can find them on LinkedIn. In fact, if you Google, soft skills are not soft anymore, because we think our soft skills are touchy, they are sissy, they're just, they're good to have. They're the most important competencies that are required of everybody for you to be successful in doing your work. Soft skills cannot be the ones which are that are technical skills, cannot be the skills that take center stage over soft skills. I don't even know what we can rename soft skills are. And there are many articles that have alluded that these soft skills, whatever we call them, let's just call them soft competencies or whatever it is, we need to rename them, and maybe we can continue having this discussion even after this webinar to just think about why we keep saying that they are soft skills while they are the most critical elements in a business for us to be able to move forward, because people interactions are important and collaboration is what people bring to the place of work. So two types of competencies that are required in the organization are the managerial competencies, and managerial competencies do not mean that the people, low cadre employees, the janitors, the drivers, they'll always be low cadre employees and there'll be high cadre employees, but everybody is important in the organization. Is that everybody is expected to demonstrate them. This type of competency relates to the ability to manage jobs and develop an interaction with other people. Everybody will have to show themselves up and be able to interact with the other people. Some people are more difficult to relate with, and we can talk about difficult people and stuff like that. And then be able to do the job well. So for example, problem-solving skills, leadership, communication, negotiations, all those. In every element, we need to bring ourselves up within the values that are in that organization. Then the functional competencies, which we talk as the technical, the hard competencies, this type of competency relates to the functional capacity of the work. It mainly deals with the technical aspects of the job. For example, market research, financial analysis, electrical engineering, HR, your capability to hire well and to use the principles, your ability to do a job evaluation, complete it well, your ability to do a training need analysis for the organization and stuff like that. Doing the job completely and doing it well. But the soft competence is what it is. And then people then will ask me, Catherine, so my interaction with other people, I want to interact. I want to make sure that I am being seen and to make sure that my work is being done. But the people that I work with do not demonstrate that. They don't have that. Where I said some people are natural at bringing themselves up in the job attitude. They are better negotiators. They just have that in it, But everybody has something that they are so good at that if you fail to use it, then you are doing yourself a disservice. So when everybody comes with that job attitude, the skills that you have naturally, we have a thriving organization. So when they ask me that, what should I tell them? But Catherine, so I want to collaborate, but my colleague is so nonchalant. They really don't They feel that they don't want to collaborate and whatever. So what do we do? When we are faced with working with difficult colleagues whom we know that can do better, or people who just don't want the best for the others, what should we do? Because they are not managing their competencies well. Someone? Face those kind of dilemmas. We face them all the time. What should we do? Or where you work is just new. It is nice. There's no conflict management. Everybody is hunky-dory. We all say good morning. You know, if you are given work, someone will help you. It's all good. How should we relate? What should we do? Communicate in a very...
I think in such situations, like I'll give an example with where I work. There's a time that it was a bit difficult to like say good morning to everyone. Like there's this particular employee that could not answer good morning. A simple good morning. They just look at you and they're like, good morning, good morning, good morning, and they're just staring at you. So what I did to, because as the HR, of course, I do my the normal morning rounds in the office, get to know how people are, how are they okay? Is there anybody who's not feeling well? Maybe send them home. Is there anybody who needs whatever it is, just making the normal morning rounds. And I noticed there's this particular employee, so difficult. Like you just say good morning, he's just looking at you, he doesn't even care. So I said good morning until he got to some point where he realized that he has to be answering me good morning. Yeah, like he will just ignore. I think it's just do your part, do your best, do your part, because people can be difficult anyway. So for this particular, I said good morning. He ignored me the first time, good morning. The second time, good morning. I got to some point, I said, I'm not giving up. I'll show up and do my best. So I think it's more of when it's more behavior is more personal. So just do your part, do what you can. If they don't change and are not willing to change, then I guess that's on their part.
Very observable. Good morning until they were receptive in saying good morning. Don't give up. I like that. Don't give up. Someone else? Observable. Someone else? With colleagues who don't exhibit soft competencies, live our values and our culture. What can we do? How can we support them? I keep saying that we come from our socialization and our backgrounds, our traditions and culture will inform a lot in terms of how we relate and how we show up in the greater society. However, if I want to be progressive and I want to be successful, I must be able to exhibit and learn those behaviors. There is no way that I'll be the one not saying, and some people, they grew up without their homes, without saying good morning, good night, have a good day. But when you come to the world and in school, when you go to school and the teacher tells the class good morning, you know that it's a universal recognized behavior and standard. So you start learning. And maybe you can question and say, hey, okay, here is different. And I can tell you, in campus, I had my roomie in university, met still very good friends, best of friends. Never used to say good morning. Now I'm just wondering, okay, we share a room, but tumelala, tumeamka, kaniuliza nao, wewe unasemanga good morning saa zote, good night ni nini? Nikamwambia, but it's normal, it's part of life. Akasema, but in our house, everybody wakes up and goes their way. They say, welcome to the real world. Did the teacher used to say good morning? Just say maybe it's, and then she says, those were just teachers instructing. They said, no. Some of the universal accepted behaviors, respect, kindness, goodness. Some people, they didn't observe them at their places, at their home, but as you interact more with the society, then you're expected to pick them. So luck, thank you for not giving up on your colleague in terms of saying good morning. And of course, there are people who their good morning is more warm compared to some people who are just flat good morning. Maybe they're not morning people. In the afternoon, they're the ones who, good afternoon, let's let the work begin. So it's important just to see what we are bringing to the organization. But back to the soft competencies of the organization, more so will be informed by the values, by the culture, and the business strategy that they are trying to push for the organization. So let's not forget that. Moving on, competency identification process, like what I have said, is that I would like to ask a very important question. Does any of you have competency pillars for each position that you have in the organization? And I'll show you an example of a competency pillar. Anyone? Because if we say that a HR person should have negotiation skills, what are the behaviors observable in negotiation skills? Anybody? Competency pillars for each position that we have? And you can Google them. There are many, and you'll be happy to see and to take them back to your place of work, and you'll be the shining star, by the way. Never miss an opportunity to shine. Electricity is back. Competency pillars at your place of work. My power is back. Okay. So how do we come up with a competency framework? We have seen there two. One is the soft skill, and the other one is the hard competency, technical and observable behavior. So clarity, organizational strategy and context, competency identification, and then we generate the competency models, and then validate and refine and implement. So the hard work, which many organizations, and it should not just be a HR function, to develop competencies for every position, it's a joint effort with the line managers and management. So don't feel lost, and don't maybe agree in quotes, to be the one identifying competency pillars for the organization. You should have the skill to be able to support it and to drive it. But let not be you saying, for the HR position, these are the competencies. For business development people, these are the competencies. For the finance people, these are the competencies. Let it be a joint effort of developing those competencies, because they are the ones who are going to own it. If you develop it for them, and I keep saying, when now we go to develop competency, support competency metrics for organizations, is that they must be owned by the users. If they aren't, they are not sustainable, they are not embraced, and they will be gathering dust, and you'll not be able to do what? You'll not be able to evaluate them in a way that they will feel that indeed I bring this competency completely and fully. This one enyewe, I'm feeling in it. So it's important for us to be able to have a joint discussion with the people who are doing the competencies. So for competency identification, analyze the work role and process. That is where we say, if the job description is not clear, you'll not be able to go through it. Gather data through behavior, event, interview, or focus group, and conduct benchmark studies. There are many ways to be able to analyze the competencies. Very observable. Let's not forget it. but we're able to put it down in pen and down on paper through our values and through what is really needed in this whatever. Like I'll keep referencing the doctors because they're in the limelight right now. Is one of the core competencies that they need is empathy, isn't it? So how do you demonstrate empathy? And how do you define empathy? And what are the observable behaviors that you are supposed to live in this competency? It a little bit more as we go along. Okay, great. Any question there? Any question? Someone would like to put a rejoiner? Okay, let's go on. Okay, so let's look at I'm sure people always say, give us examples. May I want to see an example. You've just said so many things. You've said problem solving, negotiation skills, communication skills. You know, what is completely practical? And I wish I could take you guys into breakaway rooms, but in the interest of time, let's just let's look at as all of us together. Okay. Sometimes I like examples of our competency. Bernice, do you want to read for us definition? We take adaptability. Let me just be more involving. Let me get you guys more. Bernice, do you want us to read for us the definition of adaptability as one of our competency that is so well liked in the organizations? You can unmute yourself. Thank you.
It's okay. Adaptability, maintaining effectiveness when priorities change and new tasks are encountered, and when dealing with individuals who have different views and approaches. Effectively performing in different environments, cultures, and locations, and when working with different technologies and levels of individuals.
If we define a competency, one of our competencies is adaptability, we might define it like this. You can define it. I mean, this is the definition of adaptability across board. You know, it's standard. So what are some, and then you come and say, well, so you've told us to be adaptable. You know how employees look like this. They said we should be adaptable. Okay. So what are we supposed to do? Okay, so I'm just supposed to work with looking like that. Then you come and say, no, guys, stop. We've even come together around the table and say, what are some of the key behaviors that we need to see around one of the competencies that is core for us, which is adaptability? Okay, Maureen, do you want to read for us maybe some of the key behaviors that we need to ensure that people are living the competency of adaptability?
Hi, Catherine. Your screen is blank on my side. I can't see.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yes.
Lillian,
Yes.
can you see my screen?
I'm actually still seeing the previous screen. The slides. The
Okay.
previous slide.
Okay.
Example of competency.
Who can see my screen well? Is my screen not showing? Kemunto?
I can see at my end the adaptability and the key behaviors.
Okay, continue with the key behaviors.
Okay, so key behavior one, seeking understanding, makes effort to better understand changes in the environment, actively seeks information or attempts to understand nature of individual differences, logic or basic for changing tasks and situations. Embracing change, approaches change or newness with a positive orientation, views change or newness as a learning or growth opportunity. Making accommodations, makes accommodations in approach, attitudes or behaviors in response to changing environmental requirements.
Thank you, Felista. Can we all agree that these key observable behaviors. You seek time, you embrace change, and you make accommodations in the area of this competency adaptability. Make effort to understand changes in the environment and actively seeks information and attempts to understand. You go out of your way. We want to see you going out of your way. So the line manager told me that this deadline is project, and thinking, wow, 2 weeks it's really tight. I'll have to work double time and stuff like that for me to be able to deliver. So you go to the line manager and try and maybe negotiate or understand why the 2 weeks is what needs to be. And they will explain to you, you're adaptable. You are seeking out to understand and embrace change. If there's something new in the organization, there's maybe a new leader, you embrace with positivity. Some people who are bypassed an opportunity and someone comes in, they almost look and say, okay, let me see how they're going to perform. After all, I was also in the race. Positivity is important, and to see what the other person, whatever, or even a change that is there to be or be an opportunity to learn, or don't then be the one being negative and showing bad vibes. The key behavior has already been outlined for you. So when we come and mark you down and say whatever, but we already have even defined it for you. And we say approach changes and newness with a positive orientation. When you are not positive, we will see it through your behavior and we'll call you out. And then you will say, no, we will go back to our documentation and say, hey, Catherine, what are the key behaviors that you're supposed to observe around our core competency of adaptability? And as a good employee, I'll call myself to a meeting and say, Nyewe, I'm sorry. It's been defined for me. And I can even seek further guidance if I don't understand it. I keep on saying, don't miss an opportunity to make an impression. Because when changes, even when people, it's very observable. When things are going around the organization, people get bypassed by opportunities and things that can really be impactful in your personal life. Either more money will be impactful, you'll be able to articulate your dreams or bring your dreams to life. But if you're always the one who is always dragging poor attitude, nobody wants to work with you. Whether you are the owner of the company, if you are the owner of the company, it's something different. But if we have an opportunity to select the people and we can see, and why did you pick them? We're able to reference, look at this behavior, don't they? And you can be able to nod, and then we keep telling you, you're on this other side of the divide, an opportunity has come, it has bypassed you, you can see how disadvantaged you're able to be. So don't miss those opportunities to show up in a way that your presence is felt. Job attitude again. Job attitude is you in the real measure of bringing yourself. So that's important. Make accommodation around that, whatever. So when you're doing your competency models, it's important. Another, let's take another competency, analyze and problem assessment. Would like to read for us? And if there is, feel free to also give an example or just put a rejoinder to these competencies and the key behaviors we are discussing. Let's go to analysis and problem analysis. Someone who's not said spoken, you can see my screen. Feel free to read. Would like to read for us? Vicky, Wainaina, Lorna?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to read for us.
Okay, examples of competency, analysis, to problem assessment, securing relevant information and identifying key issues and relationships from a base of information. That's relating and comparing data from different sources, identifying cost-effect relationships. Then the key behavior.
Yeah, continue with key behaviors.
Number one, identifying issues and problems. That is recognizing major issues, identifying key facts, trends, and issues, separating relevant from irrelevant data. Two, seeking information. That is identifying, recognizing information gaps or the need for additional information, obtaining information by clearly describing what needs to be known and the means to obtain it, questioning clearly and specifically to verify facts and obtain the necessary information. Next, seeing relationships, organizing information and data to identify, explain trends, problems, and their causes. That is comparing, contrasting, and combining information, seeing associations between seemingly independent problems or events to recognize trends, problems, and possible cause-effect relationships. The last one, performing data analysis, that is organizing and manipulating quantitative data to identify, explain trends, problems, and their causes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well read. So when we look at another problem solving as a key competency in an organization, what are some of the key behaviors that we will want you to exhibit when you are doing that? So, and one of the things, again, I would like to emphasize is that let it not be your burden to define key competencies for organization, key competency for every job, and the key behaviors. It must be a joint effort in an organization so that people can be able to own them and be able to know how to evaluate them based on your evaluation criteria. It is important when you look at performance management in totality, the tools that you use to evaluate, to appraise people, because appraisal is a subset of performance management, isn't it? We all know that. It's important to make sure that the technical skills, the 5 key KPIs that people set or whatever it is, don't set too many after all. People will get lost, not more than 5, I keep saying. The competencies are based on the values that you have as an organization, and you must be able to demonstrate that. People must write a story. How have I lived the value of integrity? How have I lived the competencies that are required in my role? And what have I done to make sure that I am now putting them, and how are they helping me meet my hard technical competencies? That is the question that we should all be asking and driving. When you're invited to departmental meetings, the first thing is that, how are we living our values? Let be your opening statement. How are the competencies in your job? How are you using the competencies in your job to make sure that you are driving your technical competencies? That is a discussion that you can't fail to have or to end with when you're invited for departmental meetings, when you are addressing your town hall meeting, as a reminder, in nice subtle ways, when you're giving feedback, we see you and compliment, learn to compliment a little bit more. We see you, the behaviors. I mean, when we brand our cars, when I see them on the road, the drivers are driving the cars well, make sure that you're having that conversation from time to time. Remember, the competency framework is the one that really supports the functions of the organization that are expected to deliver the results to the shareholders, okay? So what are the benefits when we think about the competency models? There's no way that they will not be beneficial to the organization, to the managers, to the employees, and they can be as many benefits as we are in this webinar. So for the managers, identify performance criteria to improve the accuracy and ease of hiring and the selection process, because you're able to demonstrate through competency-based interview whether the person you are speaking to or the selected candidate possesses some of these competencies. Clearly clarify standards of excellence for easier communication of performance expectations to the people that you supervise. Provide a clear foundation for dialogue to occur between the manager and the employee. Feedback about performance, development, and career-related issues. So it's important for the line manager to enjoy and to understand the use of using competency models. Okay. For the employee, the success criteria, behavioral standards of performance excellence required to be where that we go. Support a more specific and objective assessment of their strengths and targets, and specify targeted areas of professional development. We all know that we are not perfect. And there are things that we struggle with from time to time. And if we are honest enough with ourselves, we already know as people, that Johari window must be looked at by every person from time to time, every individual. Self-awareness. We know our key strengths and areas of improvement. And also taking feedback from your colleagues, from your supervisor, and actively asking for that feedback. How am I showing up? What are some of the areas that I need to improve on? And how can I improve? And things that will ensure that I become more successful. The thing is that we are so afraid of seeking feedback and looking at things that really don't make us proud of ourselves, because we know that people can be extremely impatient, people have no tenacity, people can be procrastinators, people are judgmental, all those things that people can just be uncooperative, and you could be that person. And every time people tell you and say, I was born like that, there's nothing I will do. Okay? There's something you can do, because the organization can decide to let you go, and you might not have a job. And good jobs are few and far between. You could also be the owner of the business, and after all, it's a successful business, but you might just be losing talent all the time. So I'm not saying that we will not feel disappointed or frustrated with the way people behave and people do their work, but we must also be able to understand how to self-regulate ourselves when we work with people. It can't be the only one. You are always swimming upstream when us guys are going downstream. Tunaenda teke, we are happy with the results we are doing, and you're always punching holes when it's not necessary. I'm not saying that we don't put on our hat every day of critical thinking and making sure that we are asking, but you are asking in a negative way. You want to pull us down. You want to make sure that everything fails. So I keep saying we all fail. But if there are people who can do things differently, allow us to do things differently and to learn from those people, okay? Provide development tools and methods for enhancing their skills, okay? Any question around key strengths, especially key strengths and areas of improvement around the Johari window, around working with people who do not really look at their blind spots and don't want to be told about their blind spots?
I have a question around this is Maureen. I have a question around culture. because I strongly believe that culture is driven by competencies and behavior. Are there other ways? Of course, you have consultants and coming to say, or trainers coming to say, external trainers coming to say, you know, we can teach you, we can train you on culture, or we can train you, you know, they have all these, what do I say, services or training packages that they're trying to sell. But you know, I strongly believe that behavior and culture is driven by competencies. So maybe what would you say around that? Is competencies in terms of sustainability, is it best driven through or behavior or culture? Is it best driven through competencies, or you know, just training that doesn't really have a framework? Someone tells you, I can do training for you on culture, you know, but then maybe it's not backed by competency framework. So what's the most sustainable way of driving culture? That's my question.
That's a very good question and good observation around culture and competency, bringing that together. First, before I put my thoughts, and there's no right or I think best way to drive culture in an organization, more observable. Did I lose you again there for a minute?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So, Maureen, what I'd like to say, and I would like to hear what others say. Values, it's complicated, but it's not complicated. And all of us come from different social backgrounds and what we want to bring. So it's for us to build a culture, we all must come together and agree on some key basics and key standards, okay? And then after that, have conversations around building it. And over time, then it becomes second nature and part of our DNA, okay? So let's pack that a little. But how do we continuously drive culture in an organization? Through the competencies that are required. First is through the hiring process, because everybody has to come in through some way. You get what I mean? Through some way. Some way is through an interview, people sitting around the table and saying, this person looks like they can fit into our culture. First, our mantra for recruitment as HR people, as I answer this question, is that hire for attitude, train for skill. 90%, I have a big poster in my office, 90% attitude, 10% skill, because skill you can always learn, okay? But your attitude and you're able to fit in is driven by many things. So our ability to have clear job descriptions like what we said, and I'm so happy one of us said, we've dropped too many responsibilities. We want to look at the core skills that are required for this job. And these core skills must fit into Catherine so that she's becoming successful to be able to live that culture. It's almost like a monster. Too many antennas, too many facets for us to be able to bring it home. If we hire right, and hiring right means that we concentrate on having competency-based interviews, which we will look at shortly, we'll make sure that we are driving that culture that we want. A culture that is open, transparent, those are the kind of cultures that we want. That easily communicates, that is agile, that makes people successful. Maureen, I hope I'm communicating what all of us want in terms of a culture. So we can define, we cannot put down, because it's very observable, we can say this is our culture through the values that we have, okay? And we must be able to outline the behaviors that are required in each and every value that we have. If it's the value of integrity, write down the key behaviors that is expected. That is where we fail. If it's professionalism, write the key behaviors that are supposed to be articulated around the value of professionalism. I'm saying the ones I see common in every organization. If it's the value of client focus, write the key behaviors so that if I am going out of that value, it's through the behaviors that I'm not living. We're going to continuously build that culture to make sure that it's peaking and it is living. It is very warm and we can feel it. It is grounded. It's part of our DNA, because then the competencies for you to be able to say that a HR person needs to be highly confidential. It can marry into the values that we have of integrity. You get what I mean? So every competency in the organization should be able to speak into the values that you have. If they are not, there's a disconnect. So can a consultant and external consultant help you in shaping your culture? Unfortunately, no. Culture must be lived across from the top to the bottom, and it's management who models that culture heavily. It's them who are responsible. HR can put programs to drive culture in an organization, diversity program, wellness programs, good tools for evaluating performance, all those things that you guys are champions on and experts on, because you have the technical capability. But what I'm trying to say, if you call me as a culture change expert in your organization, I'll tell you the frameworks that you need to put in place. I'll do a survey of what I feel you have said that is not going right for you. And from that survey, I'll analyze the data, and then I'll come and say, this is where you need to concentrate on, and give you a framework. But a good consultant will make sure you are the ones doing the hard work. You get what I mean? I will not come and say, for you to change your culture, fire 50 of these people who are not doing the right thing. It's not in my place. I'll just come and say, based on this is what we see. What can we do? And maybe facilitate that discussion, because they're coming in with new lenses. They have nothing to lose. They want to do a good job. And a good consultant wants to do a good job for you to feel that you are owning it and it's sustaining. So a model, there are many change culture models. There are many competency-based models, but it's the people who have to put in it, because the moment the consultant leaves, the consultant has left. After all, they're the ones who told us what to do. If we are not all involved, then it's not. The other thing that we fail to do is to involve everybody. I have seen that being a key point of not getting full ownership. That because we think that the janitor has nothing to contribute at that high level, they should not be. They might just be your change champion, the ones that you are looking for. That the person, the office assistant might not be able to understand this jargon and language of what we want. We must be able to dissect it to everybody's level. That table means that we are talking Kiswahili, we are talking in the basics of basics, giving people to understand and say, ask questions as much as they can. we can't also rush the process. That is where we also fail. Those champions and from the top, really going in and saying, I'm vulnerable. I also do not know. Vulnerability doesn't mean that you are crying. Vulnerability means that I do not know, even as a leader, and I'm happy to go and seek for more information. If that information, I need to seek it from the janitor, so be it. Have a discussion and say, I hear you know these things. What happens? It's not probing. I don't understand, but I understand you're the expert in this area. Please make me whatever. Can you imagine that kind of connection that you can get and be able to create that? So for me, that's what I have seen when people say, why should we use a consultant? Consultant has nothing to lose bringing you ideas that maybe you have not thought about, but they let you do the hard work and own it and put structures and frameworks for you to be able to see and evaluate whether they are going correctly. Does that give you some resemblance of something, or I have just complicated it more?
I think it's a very, very broad response, but it has answered my question in terms of competencies, sustainably driving culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And looking at from the very onset, from your job descriptions and your strategy and your competency pillars and an organization for you to be able to do that. Anybody else would like to put in a comment on that? Okay, let's move on. Okay. So what are some of the key characteristics of a successful implementation? So we have all these ones, we have designed them and say this is what we want. Of course, we all know that documenting is one thing, but also implementing is another. So aligning competencies, impact systems that actively support the organization, vision, strategy, and key capabilities, integration competencies initiatives that produce the most significant change are applied systematically across a range of HR development processes. We'll discuss this shortly. And distribution competency standards alone produce little effect. They must be actively and relentlessly communicated and installed with users. There must be an alignment of how they support you. Remember where I say that, and it's nice to validate these things as we move along, that we have a company strategy which has a mission, a vision, core values, whatever, we all bring it in. If our competencies for each job that we have are not aligned, we are not going to support. We must be able to align our competencies with our core strategy. Integration initiatives that produce the most. What are some of the initiatives that can be done by HR to make sure that constantly we can see the significant changes? One, you will tell me, Catherine, is very observable. Sure, good enough. But what other initiatives can we put in place to make sure that there is core integration? I love the fact that we should be as practical and deliberate in terms of these discussions as much as possible. And I hope you're also thinking, what are my core competencies as a person? And how do I show up at my place of work with my core competencies and my job attitude? Initiatives. So let's say a competency like negotiations. What are some of the initiatives that you can put in place that can be felt? That if they're a good negotiator, if it's a big deal that we are going to discuss, you carry someone who is good at negotiation, not necessarily the product could be someone the salesperson is speaking. Look at how collaboration works so well in an organization. And if people understand that we are pitching for this big job, everybody should be knowing in the organization where the sales people are going to pitch for this job. And we are all working together to make sure that we clinch the deal. All of us will be happy. You get what I mean? But maybe there's a critical element of now us going to negotiate at the table. Perhaps not necessarily because we know that XYZ is a good negotiator, carry them across. Integration. And not necessarily they are going to speak, but at the meeting, they might pick things that we might want to go back because maybe there's the first part of the negotiations and stuff like that, and bring it back to the table and say, this is how I had, this is how we need to negotiate with it. Win-win situation. And the distribution of competency standards alone produce little effect. They must be actively and relentlessly communicated and installed to users. That's what I say, that take opportunities, go to department meetings, get yourself there, ask, what is the calendar? Can I come? I have one or two things to excite you about some of the things that you guys are doing well. Find a way of going to people's meetings. You're not nosy, but you're going to articulate your agenda and the agenda of the organization during the town hall meeting, during special awards, anything that help you cement and keep communicating that. Is that okay? Okay, let's move on. Feel free to whatever. Self-directed application. Competency systems frequently fail because they are too complex and require an unsustainable level of sponsorship or program support. Implementation that works best focus on the development of tools that can produce results or users are relatively little ongoing support. Don't make it complex. People hate complex things. People hate things that you think that do not relate with them. Just say, this job needs you to have good communication skills. We believe that your communication skill is not up to par because we have observed people don't seem to understand or something like that. We would like to support you in becoming a better communicator and ask, let them also be involved in that. You've given that feedback. We would like to support you. When you use words of affirmation, people are more receptive. You don't communicate well. You cannot continue like that. You have to go for training. Okay? But this is how God created me, and this is how I communicate. Now you start having a necessary conversation, and they'll tell you, you'll ask them, go and explore how to become a better communicator. And they might just come and say, hiya, I've just seen that if I watch people YouTube channels of great communicators, I can learn. Ownership. And then maybe someone else will come and say, I've heard there's a program called Toastmasters. Are you guys willing to sponsor me? And they come and say, yes, let's see. And Toastmasters is a real good program, and it's a lot of hard work, but they are the ones who are willing to put in the hard work. You know, and someone comes and says, I would like to be mentored by someone who I believe is a good. They have the ones identifying, not just going to, you've seen a communication course and saying, attend that course. You remember where we said we must be able to own it and it must be able to sustain it. So people don't want complex things. Let them own it and make it as simple as possible. Articulation in competency systems at work, they become part of the culture and mindset of leaders through repeated application and refinement over a significant period of time. If we are modeling it, it's mindset. I hope you are now the new buzzword in this town or in this world is mindset. Ability to change our mindset, and it's beautiful. There are many webinars and there are many human interest stories on mindset. There are many things that you can learn how to change your mindset. It's all about self-awareness. and taking yourself to the next level. So please feel free to look at that, okay? So that brings us to the end of that, whatever. I'd like us to quickly move on. I know we've got a couple of more topics to change, but I just wanted us to cement around competency, the models, the two models of soft skills and hard competencies, and then how do I now build it as a HR practitioner very practically at the workplace to make sure that it's coming home. Any question? Any question? Okay, so competency-based interviews, of course, we know when you're called for an interview, you're excited, you're happy. Oh, my dream job is coming. If you're brave enough, like some people that I know, they will call and say, what is the interview process? And you're thinking, we've not even started the engagement. That's a good candidate for you. I'd like to know the interview process so that maybe, and if you ask them, why would you like to know? A valid question. They might say, I need to know how much time I need to take off from my current work because maybe getting permission is a bit difficult. I need to plan myself. So be receptive. I need to know whether I need to prepare myself psychologically to be able to pass through. If it's 4 interviews, I need to prepare myself psychologically and all that kind of stuff. They might even say, no, now that I have known your interview process, I'm not interested. So let's not waste each other's time in terms of going through this, whatever. It might not something that will interest me, even if I have applied for a job. So if you've never had someone calling you and asking you, what's the kind of interview process? It's not bad, it's not good, but if you've ever had, then be a bit more receptive in terms of whatever, showing what the process is for them to appreciate and they become more prepared and not just being prepared on the interview day, okay? So there's the conventional interviews and there's the competency-based interviews, okay? So conventional is very unstructured. You look as if it looks structured, but it's not structured. It looks as if it's just here, neither there. I'd not like to, let's talk about who's ever watched the interviews that our lawmakers conduct when they're interviewing candidates. What do you think of them? It's not right or wrong. Observable. How are they? Anyone? Parliament being interviewed. What do you think? What goes through your mind? Do you think they're experts or is it just like another sitting? They are interviewing people for important positions in the country, or even to represent like these ambassadorial jobs which are now being interviewed for. You're not watching, keep up. Okay. Sometimes I just think that first, they don't really have strong interview skills. Because they are not maybe HR or something like that. But I also feel that they are not too well structured. Sometimes they go into people's real personal space, which they are not, whatever. The candidate sometimes is left frustrated, embarrassed, and stuff like that. But anyway, those, again, I keep saying, if you are the one towering, if you are the owner, sometimes you the other person on the other side, you're left high and dry. But sometimes very unstructured, don't give the other person an opportunity to fully express themselves, and they jump from one thing to the other. So that's what very unstructured, and it cannot give you the results that you need, because then it's more of a gut feeling, and while it is important to rate, is rating the last thing that you make that is rating the last is rating the decision you make to hire someone? Yes or no? Yes or no? Rating? So you rate candidate. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to contribute on that. So for interviews, rating does not necessarily inform the hiring decisions because, for example, when we are in a panel and everybody is rating these candidates differently, you may end up having someone who maybe scored high, but at the time of debrief, you find that that is not the candidate who will actually be selected for that position. So we are not just looking at the rate, but we are also looking at other skills, like what we're talking about right now on the competencies. So the rating is not necessarily the final hiring decision.
That's true. Thank you. Yeah. But some organizations have actually still maintained that that rating is what will take the day. And of course, if you have vested interest, then if 3 of you have vested interest in a candidate, you will rate them highly at the expense of really getting a good candidate. Very, very subjective and very unfortunate way of hiring. And we have seen some government appointments being asked, where is the rating? And let's see the rating. While you looked at those interviews and you knew, oh, no. I think the other candidate, I like what you have said that while we could have a rating, which is fine, it's no whatever, but the decision to hire a candidate, remember, is based on their ability to demonstrate that they are capable of doing this job. And it is only through competencies that you're able to do that. Concentrate on making sure that the questions can demonstrate practically for them to give you practical instances, and not only through competencies that you're able to do that. So the conventional way of interviewing has to go out through the window, because then it will not give you the accuracy in predicting performance. You know, we are so susceptible to the biasness of the gut feeling. I saw this one, okay, I think they can perform. But going in a little bit more is through the competency-based interviews. Okay, so the competency is a structured type of interview. The questions are focused on disclosing examples of behaviors in the past. Tell us of a difficult scenario you have faced during your sales your sales pipelines, and how did you overcome it? You're looking at the behaviors of how they exhibited that, you know. The process of interview is intended to disclose specific and in detail examples of behavior in place of what you're trying to get and to achieve. You agree? Of the past. It is designed based on the principle past behavior predicts future behavior. Isn't it? We all have that saying and we love it. Candidates are most likely to repeat these behaviors in a similar situation in the future. So it's important for us to look at making sure that the behaviors, even the demeanor, the mannerism, you know, I keep on saying you don't have another opportunity to make a first impression. So make the first impression count. There's some people who will just get into the room and you can feel their presence, a very positive presence in terms of having that discussion. Don't you love a candidate who comes and sets the pace for themselves for that interview? It's a pleasure to interview them. They are in tune with that interview so well, how they articulate the questions, the examples they give, the initiatives that they have taken, because interviews is all about showcasing yourself with your skills and the competencies and the knowledge that you know that accumulates into that the job that they are coming to hold. Okay, so make sure that whatever. So in competency-based interviews, a high level of validity and reliability, equipped with a standard scoring system, which refers to behavior indicators. Don't worry, don't feel, I'm sure you're all doing competency-based interviews. It's more of ensuring that you are asking questions to pick up the behaviors of this candidate, the competencies that should be demonstrated in that job, and how they've been able to do it. The questions are correct, but in terms of asking them and making sure that you're going in depth is what I keep on saying that every HR person should be able to own and to own the follow-up questions. And don't worry about having just one interview. Go into second and to third interviews. Nothing stops you. Use tools that will bring out assessment and behaviors of this candidate for you to be able to know them more. Because then, let's say you have a team of all extroverted people, and there is no right, you've just hired people who are outspoken, and you need now to start balancing the team. You have to also to be very deliberate in your hiring process. In terms of moderating your teams, it's important. You have balance of diversity and inclusion. Diversity is not just about the things that are observable: gender, race, color, religion. Diversity is what goes really inside in terms of what needs to be looked and observed. The behaviors of people, the type A, the sanguines, the cholerics, the what. You must be able to have all that in your organization for you to have a good mix and balance. So sometimes you are helped through the competency-based frameworks of interview to make sure that you're bringing these people a little bit more. It's not to say that you stop having the objectivity of making sure only the right people with the right attitude earn their way through and get the job. Okay. So approach to competency-based interviews is what is the situation that you are involved in? What is the task that needed to be accomplished? What actions did you take? And what actions were they achieved? So in terms of, if we follow this approach in terms of interviewing, then you're able to look at those competencies and they're able to be brought to the fore. And then you can see, this is what Catherine said, this is what John said, this is what Mary said, who is a better fit for us and what are we looking for, okay? Approach to competency-based interview, the situation. Can you explain the situation? Allow me not to read all of them. The task and the actions, you can ask what tasks are you supposed to do, and at that time, results, you can look at this result slides later. What are the results? What was the outcome? So some of the questions that you can ask. Sample questions of a competency-based interview. You can talk about a competency of you need to be persistent in this job. What you can put a scenario and look at how the person is going to answer. And then influencing others, you can put a scenario and be able to look at their competencies. Another, interpersonal understanding, planning and organizing, because if your job descriptions have those competencies well articulated and aligned, you'll be able to have the sample questions well in advance. Whether they have done, if they have done their HR course, they have the principles. Now let's come to the competencies of the job. And for them to be able to demonstrate them is living through experience. That's what we want, whatever. So, of course, we all know about panels, biases, and HR. That is where you come in strongly in terms of guiding the panel. First impressions, you just think that an interviewer might make a snap judgment about someone based on their first impression, positive or negative, and clouds the entire interview process. you might just look at someone and say, Ayapana, now you've not even spoken to them. Well, is that good even? Is that good even? It's not, and that's why you need to be very clear with the panelists, the biases that can come during interviews, okay? The halo effect occurs when an interviewer allows one strong point about the candidate to overshadow that affects everything else. And we have also these halo effects during appraisals. Contrast effect, stronger candidates who interview after weaker ones may appear more qualified than the ones because the contrast between the two. And it's important just to make sure that the questions are consistent. Because again, you also lose rules in your reputation if me and Maureen know each other. And we know that you've also been asked to come and interview. Allah, Ebu Maureen Twende. And then we're exchanging notes. And then you find out that Maureen was asked this question that, what have I done? Can you hear me? That Maureen was asked, okay, that was asked, and then all of a sudden you are thinking, Allah, that is not what I was asked in those interviews. There's biasness. And I'm telling you, the strength of social media can destroy you. We went for interviews and we were asked different questions and they were given the job because they were more whatever. So don't get yourselves there, okay? So when we also are having those when we were having now, we came from the competencies itself. Now we've looked at how to, as a HR, to make sure that you're conducting competency-based interviews. Let's look at how we plan careers. And I said, when people go to organizations, people always want to know, what is my career path? Even at top level, the CEO might say, so how do I continuously improve myself? That's an important question for every individual. And if your organization doesn't have a clear career path, then you are doing a disservice to your organization and to the candidates that you want to attract, or even the people who are internally there, already there. If I don't know how I'm going to progress after my graduate program, how are we now going to have that conversation? How many of us here have clear career planning? I love the government. It's very articulate. Up to when I will become the PS, how it is. Not maybe the PS, but maybe the director. If you want to borrow something, is the scheme of service from the government. It's fantastic. How many of us have a clear career plan for the organization that helps also in succession planning, making sure that you are ready for your critical positions? If someone leaves, your heart is not beating, they've left, they've gone to competition. Who has clear, whatever? If I come in as a HR assistant, how am I going to progress? Ama tunaendanga tu tukienda, mali tutafikiana tutajua. Ama I go to HR and say, nimekaa sana sasa in this position. Nionyeshe what next? And HR also has no idea. Okay. So it's important for us to make sure that we are having that, because with that, you're able to retain employees, you're able to design programs and show people where they're going, you earn their loyalty, you're able to look at the courses that they need and be able to cost them well, and all those kind of things. You know what career planning and how important it is. Any good organization will make sure that they are looking at the competencies required in the organization to map up careers plans for their people. And it's not just the title that we are looking at, guys, that if I come in as a HR assistant I will go to a HR officer. From a HR officer, I'll go to a senior HR officer. From a senior HR officer, I'll be ready for to become a HR manager. From a HR manager, I will go to become a HR director. From a HR director, I will become chief people. Good enough. I think that's one line of looking at it. But the real work is in there. What is required for me to come from an assistant HR to an officer? That the analysis of that is what needs to be well defined, because I can come and tell you you'll become an assistant, you'll stay being an assistant for 5 years, another criteria, but doing what? How am I developing myself to become an officer? Fair enough. You'll also come and tell me, but Catherine, I don't have the position of an officer because there are not enough positions. But that does not stop you from preparing someone when the position is ready. And don't fear to train people, because then they will leave. After all, good HRs and good organizations, we know that we want a better society. We want better Africa. So if Catherine moves from company A to company B, they are better placed. Don't fear to train people. What we are trying to say is that we also need to have that conversation and saying, I do not promise that you will become a HR officer to have that position, to be called a HR officer and to earn the money that is for a HR officer when I don't have a position. But I will make you ready, so when those positions are open, you can continue, you can easily fit in. And we also start prepping you to get there. So my take always, develop people, let people move on. So career planning. So we go into career planning design, and that's the design where we say, how do people progress and how do people move? And then analyze the employee's future plan. What is your plan, Catherine? My plan is to become the CEO. Okay, good enough. For you to become the future. We know what Catherine plans are. This. For you to become the CEO, we need to look into it. It's not the straight line of assistant, manager, director. We need to whatever that. But do you know what is the career plan? I feel that now I have stayed in this organization and I see things developing and I have interest in that area. I want to move to quality assurance. Allah, we didn't know. And the opportunities coming up in whatever, let's develop you as we get more quality assurance people in this organization. So there are two facets of it. The progressive career plan for people and also my desired plan for the future. Remember the competencies that we are trying to build, implementation of the development plan. So what's a career plan? Or without having to belabor, you can read this. I've explained career plan is a series of positions that one must go through in order to achieve a certain position in the company. The path is based on the position competency profile that an employee must have to be able to hold a certain position. So defining a career plan, analyzing the position or job based on the competency required, and then after that, we categorizing the positions that require similar competencies into one job family. We know what job families are, identifying career paths based on the job family, okay? So with that then, when we look at analyzing the job based on the competency required, is competency profile, functional and managerial competency per position. And categorizing the positions required, I mean, like, let's say job families are like, maybe HR and admin. They almost belong to one job family. And it's you understand, I can't explain it more better. Categorizing the positions into that job family because they might require the same kind of competencies. And then career path, vertical, lateral, diagonal, mandatory training for you to be able to hold those jobs when they become available. So assessing employee career plan is around the employee needs and the organization need. How do we match them together? When I come and tell the organization, Allah, me, I want to be in my next life. No, in a couple of years, I want to be a pilot. Good enough. But I can't take you to a piloting school. It's not my core business while I'm manufacturing water. But if you come and tell me, I'm very interested in quality assurance and my business is in the business of quality assuring water, then perhaps I can consider that that is something that I can train you for us to have more skills in the organization. Are we together? So matching that without losing foresight and without invalidating what people see in the business and what they're able to bring, compared to a far-fetched dream of, oh, I want to be a pilot. Then you say, but this is not the place for you. But you can encourage them. If you want to be a pilot, what does it mean? What does that mean for you? When will you start training as a pilot? And let people follow their dream. If it means that they have to leave the organization, so be it, okay? I know many organizations do have employee development programs. So employee career needs and organization career needs, So development programs are many that are put together to be able to develop the employees' competencies as they wait to get to the next big thing. You can give them special assignments. We can have training and workshops like what we are doing now, presentation assignments on the job development. We can do job enrichment. There are many that you guys know. Executive development programs, something that I love and I said about is coaching and mentoring people in the organization. So you can develop all these programs, looking at the competencies required and start building, sending people to these programs for them to gain those skills that are required for them to get ready within your career plan, okay? So how do we develop people in organizations? Any question? Any question? Any remark? Any rejoinder around career planning?
Hi, Catherine.
What tools? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Maureen, go ahead.
Thank you, Vicky. So, Catherine, what are some of the best tools to use for career planning?
Tools like, okay, it's a good question.
Maybe I can respond and just advise. For us, we use the personal development plan or individual development plan tool. That's a tool we use, and it's a tool that is completed at the beginning of the year when we are doing the performance contract. So it's a discussion that is held together with the performance, the performance contract that we do at the beginning of the year, the annual contract, sorry. So we talk about what are you going to do, what are your KPIs, objectives of the year, and what do you intend to do to grow yourself, to develop yourself. So basically, it's an individual IDP development plan or personal development plan. That's the tool we use.
Yeah, a very popular tool to use so that it picks what is of interest to me. And I know also those tools go in even in depth further and say, is it critical? Is it critical for you to have it? Is it moderate to have? Or is it a good to have? Isn't it? So you can even categorize in terms of what you can pick, okay? I think one of the things is that the tool that you decide to use should not be complicated. You remember, people don't like complex things. So if it's an online tool or if it's even a paper tool, the most common one of a tool, because a tool is something that can be referenced, is that two-way discussion of saying, this is what I would like to be developed on. And most of the time it comes with the tool that you use for performance appraisal. So whatever system, whether you are using the balance scorecard, whether you are using management by objective, whether you are using the 360-degree performance appraisal tools. They should be an area of set out deliberately in terms of personal development. And that personal development is where you say, these are the things that I would like to be developed on. Either hard competencies, soft competencies, and then the HR department will come and analyze all the training needs. See, that's how it goes anyway, all the training needs that are there. Then we get trainers, in-house, external, for us to be able to do that within the budget and stuff like that. After that, we are observing, we are seeing return on investment, But bring it back home a little bit more in terms of those tools. Those tools need also to speak to our policies and development needs as an organization. Looking at our competency pillars, are we really checking off the boxes? So this position, this job family requires interpersonal skills. Has everybody been developed in interpersonal skills? And what are the observable behaviors? This, I'm telling you, competency development in an organization is a full-time job. If you decide to do it and to lead it, not to do it, to lead it, you must, it's almost like you're going to do it as a full-time job because you are looking at everybody. Where are they in their development journey? These are the competencies required for this position. Has Catherine done level 1? Now she's moving to level 2. What does it mean for her? She's moving to level 3. So documenting whether you're going to have it in a system or whether you're going to have it, it's easier to have it, of course, in a system compared to Excel and Word products and stuff like that. So tools are just tools. Tools, it could be anything, Maureen. You understand what I mean? But mostly as part of your, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Catherine. My question was around the profiling, the career profiling. Like, how do you determine, that ascension journey? Like for now, HR, what are the possible career, maybe ascension options? That's what I wanted to know, rather more than the personal development element.
Okay, I'll come to that. I'll show you very practically in terms of ascension. Just hold your thought right there. I like that question. Vicky, you had something? Vicky, we can't hear you. Is it your network?
Right. Sorry, guys. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
And there are some people doing some work in my compound, so I'm trying to be as loud as possible. I hope it's not interfering.
No, it's good.
Okay. No, I wanted to actually just echo what you had said about competencies and career plans, and wanted to share that where I have worked with organizations to develop competency frameworks, one of the ways I have seen them using them is to map out career growth, not stages, but competencies, because there's the assumption that, and I think you have published it right there, that people grow through careers in stages. So there's exactly what you have there: basic, intermediate, advanced, and expert. And so what I try and help them do is develop the competency dictionary, and then look at each competence and the associated behaviors through the 4 stages of career development. And therefore, then that rolls into a career plan in terms of developing an IDP through people assessing themselves and where they are in their current competencies, vis-a-vis the behaviors that they need to be demonstrating. Or if they're thinking like you are giving examples, one day I want to be a CEO. So what are the competencies then I need to be working on now so that 5 years from now, then I can be a CEO? So yes, I was agreeing with what you're saying.
Thanks. Okay. So Maureen, So just before I get there, but Maureen, we can all see in terms of the 4 stages and the pillars. Before I lose my thought, let me go back to training and development. So we progressively move into now looking at how do I progress my career in this organization, and how will we all work together, and how do I take this organization into how do I hold the organization accountable in developing my career. While we know that not all organizations maybe will have the muscles to send you on all these maybe expensive trainings, and expensive could be anything. Expensive is relative, let me put it like that. They don't have a budget, or even some organizations just decide, you know what, I'm not going to invest in people. But also, as a good HR, invest in your social capital. I keep on saying you can win at every situation. In terms of, if you know that your friend is so good in this area, bring them in. If they're good at customer service and they do trainings on customer service, I mean, if you're friends, come in. I would like you to do a 2-hour session for our people on customer service. You have nothing. Be innovative as much as you can. I keep on saying, front yourself. Let it be the panel, the person's responsibility to remove your name. You've put your name forward, you've shown up. Don't miss an opportunity to ever show up. Let it be the other person's headache to know how they're going to remove your name. If there is the position of the CEO and you feel that you are competent enough to apply for that position, apply for it. Don't think, oh my gosh, there are some more people. No. Please apply. Let it be the headache of the shortlister to know how to remove your name. And of course, if you're internal, they'll come and say, Catherine, we didn't shortlist you because of this and this and that. It's the same thing, is that if you have challenges in the organization, but it's open enough to having a mixed way of learning, a blended way of learning, these are the networks that you have, whether it's these webinars of creating networks and coming and saying, hey, I heard Maureen does good customer service. Let me invite her and come, show up. Innovative ways. But anyway, back to the topic of the day. So from competency-based career development, is that everybody wants to go for training. People always on training, And then we ask, where is the return on investment? There's no return on investment. Your return on investment for you, as your HR board paper is saying, we use 20 million on training. What is the return on investment? While you can say that it has actually contributed to the bottom line, which is good, we need to take people into account of how they're going to use the new skill that they have learned, whether it's a refresher, whether it's a new skill or whatever it is. How are you planning to bring it back to the business and showcase yourself? And if you say that my bottom line in terms of what training has done and put it at 2%, you can justify why 2%. Because again, training is observable. If you take me for a customer service training, maybe you can see that there are less complaints when I pick the phones. There are more compliments coming my way. Observable. If it's on personal effectiveness, you can see that I'm coming to work earlier than usual. I'm taking in more projects without being asked. We must be able to document and give feedback. So when you say that observation needs to come from everybody, then I'll say 2% of the bottom line, the interest, the profits that we have made, is through training, because we'll be able to see this and this and this and that. Because then again, we are asked, how do you say this return on investment on training? You've used 20 million. How have you brought it back to the business? Apart from applying for NITA and saying that I got 5 million back, that's a win, good enough. But in terms of real return on investment, the engagement index is higher. People have said they're happy with the training. Look at all these other facets that you can check to make sure that you can show return on investment. That's said and done. The competency-based training framework looks at, now Maureen, what we want before we go into now looking at how to build it up is the current level of an employee. If we come and say that this job requires you to have these types of competencies, good communication skills, good negotiation skills, persuasion skills, tenacity, whatever it is, and we see that there is a gap. And how do we know that gap? Through the kind of quality of work that you're producing, observation, feedback, all that kind of stuff. We're able now to require competency levels for each position. And then we form a training development plan for you and be able to do that. So it's the same. The training manager require competencies, for example, communication skills, public speaking, leadership, material development, training evaluation, recruitment supervisor, communication skills, all these kind of competencies that is required. Then you assess at what level. Are they in level 1? Are they in level 2? Or required level for this manager for them to be able to perform at the optimum level. You know that for me, my manager is now performing at the optimum level because I have been able to give them the required training for them to be there. Or if I'm recruiting, then these are the required competencies. I must be able to look for those traits during my competency-based interviews, like what we have discussed previously, okay? So I won't go through this. It's just how to make sure that you are taking people through the competencies that they require. But let's look at a managerial competence, just for illustration and demonstration, where you come and say the position of the supervisor and required competency is leadership. So you take them for maybe leadership 1, which is basic leadership training. There is, of course, we see, and by now, there is, people will say advanced leadership, all those, so we are saying that you start off with relevant modules. You'll go for communication skills 1, the art of motivating employees, providing effective feedback, and then you keep progressing like that until you're able to get there. Then the achievement orientation, you also go for these kind of trainings, goal setting techniques, work motivation planning, continuous self-improvement, all those. And we are saying, and we are coming back and saying, now you have gone for these trainings, or through coaching or any other type of trainings that you can provide at your workplace, not necessarily sending people externally, but even through internal. There could be people, you can mentor them, you can coach them, you can ask them to go, maybe you have LMSs in your organization, learning management system, where you have bought various learning content, and it's there, it's legit, it's good. Udemy, LinkedIn, all those places that you can go and learn. And we are ticking and saying, how you finished this one. But finishing is one thing. Putting it to practice is where Kizungumkuti is. Everybody is trained, basic, intermediate, advanced, whatever, because we want to make sure that you have the competencies required. But I can tell you, the job attitude is where the rubber meets the road. Employees want to be trained, but sometimes they also don't want to put in the effort to show that they're bringing it back to the business. That is where the challenge is. Is it a challenge for HR? No, it is not for HR. It's for the line manager to make sure that they are working with their employee to see where they are failing. And HR is just there as an enabler to come and say, as a business partner, where are we at? Is it improving? Is it whatever? And then also the consequences need to be there. They need to be clear. Your evaluation systems in the organization need to actually evaluate people and give feedback. So there are all those processes, but as good employees also, let's show up and show that there is value that is being given in terms of what it is. So again, as a supervisor and as a manager, then we have all these trainings, like we say, compulsory training for us to be able to know that we are building those competencies. So you can have all these frameworks and the competency dictionary, like what we're going to look at, for you to know that people are correctly being trained and they are developing the competencies that are required for their job. They are ready for the next big thing, okay? So in terms of now, performance element as the last one, individual performance elements have two main categories: the performance results for what we say, the hard technical skills, and the competencies, observable. Because if you tell me that I need to recruit for 5 positions this year before the first quarter, and you tell me your turnaround time for recruitment is 90 days, you can tell me, you can actually be able to rate me without us beating a heartbeat, that indeed you recruited within 90 days. It's 5/5. You went over and above 120 days. Why? And you can explain, maybe the candidate had a longer resignation time, or it was hard to fill this position. The budgets were not enough. We had to go back and whatever. There are all those. But if we know that the turnaround time, industry turnaround time is 90 days, then it's a hard stop. That we need to keep our turnover, staff turnover below 10%. And we have put in mechanisms for that. If it's 12%, we have to explain to the board. So real tangible things is very easy. The one that I have said is the competencies. Is observable. So now me, because I come and don't say good morning to you people, how can you mark me down? But it's a good to have for us to be able to collaborate well, for us to have personal engagement. So that's why I keep on saying this is a two-way traffic, and it must be modeled with the key behaviors, so that if you're not doing that, then we're able to reference and say, you don't. So we are marking you down, okay? So performance results score, competency scores, overall score will determine the employee's career movement and also rewards to be earned. That's easy. You know, we look at the achievable KPIs, the competencies, that also don't forget that they talk to our values, they talk to our mission, vision, and they also talk to the culture that we have. So competencies has everything to do with me as a person, the skills and the attitude that I bring, but they are also trainable for me to be able to deliver and for me to be able to be evaluated or whatever. So the main, these are just examples of performance results. I will not go through them because then they are things. But let me now look at a very well advanced table in terms of how a competency like collaboration. And collaboration is up in every organization now, that we need to collaborate more. We need to be more receptive to each other. So we come and say, therefore, you start as basic. You start off as basic. Someone needs to mute. You start off as basic, intermediate, advanced, and as an expert. And you draw up training needs, like leadership level 1, level 2, level 3, and stuff like that, for you to be able to know that you are actually getting there. So in collaboration, the basic of it all, you'll come and say, for us, collaboration is actively listens and clarifies understanding where required in order to learn from others. And of course, as you advance, as you advance, you will come and see that the more is required of you. If you are high, if one of your competencies is collaboration, is that you will be expected to deliver it at an expert level. But if it is not, it's not high, maybe you'll just stay at basic. And as you go up, let's say now you come in, Maureen, and that's a good question you asked. So how am I going to be developed along me coming in and as a HR assistant? My collaboration level is expected to be maybe at basic. As I move to become a HR officer, I will need to go to the competencies. I will need to develop intermediary competencies. As an intermediate, I need to up my collaboration competencies have to go up. If I am the director of HR, I'll need to come from basic, intermediate, advanced to an expert. And when you look at your competency dictionary, that's why I say it's a full-time job, because every position needs to have its competencies, and whatever the articulation in terms of what is expected of you has to be defined. Sometimes even you define the behaviors that are supposed to be exhibited, like what we are seeing here, is where people now come and say, it's too much work. It's okay. People know what they need to do. People don't know what they need to do, guys. I'm the bearer of bad news as I finish. That until you're able to put your competency dictionary in order of as you progress, people will come and say, I'm fine. I had another guy who I showed the competency pillar and what you need to do for you to become a people manager global. He said, I'm done. In fact, Catherine, offload me from whatever, because I don't want to supervise people. I want to be an expert in my position. And we respected that. And it was what it was, So people, this is not like, it's not known in the organization. So even when I'm coming to say, I need to be the CEO, these are the competencies that you will need to develop. You look at yourself and say inwardly, you remember where I said people need to be self-aware of their blind spots and call them out and try and develop so that they are successful. There's some people who will come and say, I really struggle with this. I will do myself a disservice and disservice to the organization. Allow me to be where I am because I excel instead of taking it forward. But you should always now try and encourage people in terms of what needs to be done. Is that okay? So this is an important aspect of how you develop. So the same thing you will do for leadership, basic, intermediary, advanced, and then as an expert. Communication, you do it and you put it through and you put it through and you put it through and continuously let people know that you're in intermediate, this is what you need to develop. This is the course that you need to go for, and for you to be able to do that and tick. Like here, remember this the competency development pillar that you have for people. This is what you need to do. So for Catherine, the competencies, are they achieving it? Where are they at? And for us to know that you're on the right path in terms of your career development, and you also being able to perform optimally at your place of work. Okay. So of course, the thing is that you can also get assistance from assessment centers. You can also take assessment tools to find out where people are in terms of their competency journey. It will cost you money. There are free tools which are more credible than others. The internet has all kind of free resources that you can use for you to be able to do that. So don't think, oh my gosh, it's so expensive getting into this competency journey. It should not be. You can start small as you progress and build that capacity within your organization for you to be able to look at that. So people go to assessment centers for you to be able to look into that, because then they have a standard evaluation behavior based on multiple inputs. You know, all those personality tests, aptitude tests that people are able to do, and then you can see exactly where people are, apart from just observing. Then there's a scientific way behind you saying that this is what is coming up from your results. They can be able to appreciate it more. Judgments about behaviors are made in major parts from specific development assessment simulations. These judgments are pooled in a meeting among the assessors in a statistical integrated process. So types of assessment centers in basket. When you go to an assessment center, which are many, and it's not a physical one, they can even be virtual. So don't start asking, oh, where are assessment centers? There are many people who do these assessment centers. They could also be free ones, or if you have them already in your LMS, people are able to see where they are. So in an assessment center, many tests will be done to see exactly what competencies you are lacking and the ones that need to be developed. So these kind of exercises will be done in basket exercises, working together, being told, you're the manager today, do what needs to be done. That's a nice one, even in the organization, letting people act on behalf of the manager for a week. I see that working very well. Role simulation, presentation, formal presentation, fact-finding exercises. There could be all sorts, and it's things that, group discussions, putting together a group. So for you to be able to see that. The results of the observation through assessment sensor, you get a competency score, and then you're able now to just go back to the organization and say, these are the scores that we have. These are the gaps that we have seen. These are the programs that now we need to come up with. Programs means trainings, and this is how we are going to make sure that we are overall evaluating to make sure that everybody is meeting their competency journey. That's it. Ends our presentation for today. I'd like to open the session for questions and answers, comments, whether it was useful, whether it was enjoyable, what you have taken away, and anything that you would like to know further. Over to you guys. And also to assess my competency for delivery. Feel free to put it on the chat.
Hi, Catherine. Maybe I can comment.
Yeah.
Now that I also commented at the beginning saying that I wanted to understand the session more, and I can competently okay. I can confidently, I'll use confidence, so competent. I can confidently say that I have, and without a doubt, you are a good trainer. You did say you enjoy training and development, and no doubt you have taken us through this session absolutely well. I have understood everything and I enjoyed. I honestly sometimes don't quite enjoy, or I drift away in some of these sessions, especially long ones, because these ones for the academy are usually quite long but effective. However, this one for today, I have enjoyed fully from the beginning till the end. Of course, in between, we had some hitches of internet or connectivity, but that did not deter me. So thank you very much. I have understood better than I thought I would. And you have even given me more insight, and the contributions from my colleagues have also been very enlightening. So thank you very much. And I really hope, if I do see, and I'm not flattering you, I'm just saying from this, if I see any courses that you are going to be the facilitator, be rest assured that unless it passed me, I will definitely register for them. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
If you can give us your contact thereafter, because you said you do trainings, who knows what can come out of that.
Yeah, thank you very much for that input. I appreciate. Yeah, it's all in learning together, in terms of making sure that iron sharpens iron, Yeah, so it's important that the conversations that we carry enrich the discussion. Thank you very much. Someone else, a question, clarification around today's topic. Yes, Maureen.
I echo the sentiments of my colleague. I think this has been very enlightening, and particularly for me because I'm actually starting the journey for the organization that I'm working for. There's a lot of questions on needs around. We want to train, we want to develop an employer value proposition, we want to do this, we want to do that, but then competency is at the heart of everything. So I found this very, very enlightening. I think what I would need maybe this is for another session in terms of identifying, competency identification process. I think that's something that maybe can be delved into more in a future session. How to come up with a competency dictionary. I think that would be also very useful. Thank you.
I'm sure Dan is here, and that is something that I saw here all the time around training. Catherine, we need that competency dictionary, and that's why I say that just showing that slide really elicits good discussion around how do I come up with it and how do I bring it back to my organization. Very well, yeah. What I like also to say is that the competency dictionary is actually, we have to develop together in an organization. Remember that this is what we see bespoke in this position and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that there are no common competencies for each position. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. Yeah, we can always do that. Okay. Someone else before we call it a day?
Good morning. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much. This was a very, very insightful session. I'm hoping that we'll still have the access to the notes so that we can actually sit and go through them again to ensure that we understand fully, because I believe this session is not even something that you can really just get in in these 2 hours. So thank you so much. We truly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. I'm sure the ACHRP normally has if you are I think Dan can speak into it. There is a way that you're able to get the training material from to read it through the website of ACHRP. They've got rich material and content, and then has a way of bringing in the content and giving you access to the training websites of the college. Okay, great. So, wow. So the weekend is here. Wish you all the best, and see you in the next webinars. Definitely. It was nice interacting with each one of you, and happy just to make sure that we can continue. Dan, are you able to, you want to say something in terms of the next webinars and anything that you would like to bring from? Oh yeah, there it is. I think he's put there something on the chart that we can all pick up and make sure that that is done. Thank you, everybody. I wish you both things, yeah.